Acaden Lewis has decommitted from Kentucky. This was breaking news last night. We are late on this, obviously, but bummer for a variety of reasons. Something that we speculated 2 weeks ago, and I clipped and sent to a group chat. I think you ended up tweeting it, but it's kind of funny timing for me not to victory lap this because I'm not happy. I wish Acaden Lewis was still at Kentucky, but we get shit a lot when we play the speculation game with fan bases where we talk about like, hey, if you bring this guy in from the portal, this guy's not going to be happy. And we just played it with Purdue yesterday, talking about an international guy they're trying to bring in that to me would be at the expense of like CJ Cox, Jakari Harris. And I'm like in the mud with Purdue fans who are like, you only do this with us. And then Acaden Lewis decommits last night. I went back to the video where we were talking about Donovan Dent to Kentucky. And the first thing we said a minute in, you and I, was like, man, I'm a little surprised Kentucky's trying to bring in a superstar guard because if I'm Acaden Lewis, I would be really put off by this. And a lot of the comments at that point were like, get us the superstar. Don't rely on freshman guards. So Kentucky fans obviously have a history here. They watched enough teams built around freshmen fail that they'd rather get the veteran superstars. I don't even know how upset Kentucky fans are here. I think they're surprised and bummed. But if you offered them coming into this portal season, like, hey, you can get Jalan Lowe or you can sit and wait on a Caden, it kind of feels like most of them would have taken Jalan Lowe. That's not what I would have done, Dion. So, how surprised by this news are you? What's your reaction?
I mean, I'm not surprised that Acaden decommitted. We said that on a Donovan Dent video, and I think there's a way bigger argument for Donovan Dent to play behind, or excuse me, Acaden to play behind Donovan Dent than there is for Acaden to play behind Jalan Love. So I think if you're Mark Pope, you could sell Acaden a little bit on like, hey, Donovan Dent's coming in for a year, one of the best guards in the country last year. You'll develop behind him. There's still a role for you, and then it's your team the following year if him and Jasper are gone. What's the argument for Jalan Love, right? That's where it just becomes like you were going to bring a guard in no matter what. That's where it becomes even more disrespectful to me than it was just with Donovan Dent. And I did find it to be a little disrespectful when it came to Donovan Dent. Um, this is the name of the game. I don't blame Mark Pope for what he did. It's his choice with his roster. He sold a Caden on a dream. The dream turned into a nightmare. And now Caden gets to go find his dream elsewhere.
I think your point there is the important one. This is just college basketball. It doesn't mean that coaches made mistakes. It doesn't mean that coaches are bad people, bad character, that lies were told, anything like that. It's just the reality of the sport. And it's especially a reality at the biggest, most powerful brands and programs in the sport, at a Kentucky, at a Kansas, at a North Carolina, at a Duke. These schools every single year are going to have access to the best transferring players. And it would honestly be pretty unwise or unopportunistic for these coaches to turn down the best veteran players at the expense of high school players that they are recruiting that you just don't know what they're going to turn into. Now, I say this as I believe one of the biggest fans of Acaden Lewis's game on the internet. I've been one of his biggest fans long before he committed to Kentucky. I will remain one of his biggest fans long after he decommits from Kentucky. Um, I think he's going to be a star. I just believe in his game. I think in year one, he's going to be amazing somewhere that he's given the opportunity. And if he's in college for more than 1 year, to me, he's always felt like a 2 year guy. I think he's going to be sensational in that second year and maybe beyond. Um, so to me, like if I were Mark Pope, if I were put in those shoes, my number one priority coming into the offseason would have been conversations with Jasper Johnson and Caden Lewis saying, hey guys, we want to build this roster as good as we can around you, but let's make it clear it's around you. We don't want to do anything you're uncomfortable with. We want you on the court. We're going to have a big role for you. Like, are you guys going to be okay if we go and bring in a star point guard or a star shooting guard? And if they say no, if there's uneasiness there, it would push me off my pivot. Honestly, it would. Now, I'm sure conversations like that were had behind the scenes. I don't want to act like Mark Pope hasn't done that. But my understanding, based on how they've been recruiting, because Lowe wasn't the only target, Donovan Dent wasn't the only target. They've been after stars in the portal. My understanding, based on that, is that that conversation must have been, "Hey guys, guess what? We're getting stars in. So, like, we still want you, but just so you know, like, we're gonna bring in a starting point guard. We're gonna try and bring in a starting shooting guard. We're gonna bring in stars, veterans. That's what this is." And I think, given that situation, this should be no surprise that Acaden has left. Um, but given that situation, I think the takeaway for me, it's a big learning lesson for Mark Pope on how to build rosters. Because it appears that 1 year into this, Mark Pope wants to play the transfer game every year, as
Mhm.
he should. More power to him. But if you're doing that, then be careful what freshmen you bring in. Because if you do bring in a 3-man, 4-man freshman class, some of whom are, Acaden was ranked in the 60s, I think, when he committed. We interrupt this sleepers video to talk directly to you, our loyal listener. Have you ever found yourself watching us two idiots thinking, "Hey, I wish there was a very easy, small way for me to show a token of my appreciation for all of their hard work on all these videos I love to watch"? Well, now we have just the way to do that.
Thanks to the beautiful folks over at Underdog Fantasy. They are helping us out this month, presenting a lot of the content coming out this month, giving you a chance with a amazing offer that you can use using our promo code that Gregory will tell you more about.
Yeah, so college hoop season's over, but we got like big time golf tournaments. The NBA playoffs are coming. Baseball season's underway. There's still a bunch of sports on. There's still a bunch of ways to play with Underdog Fantasy. Promo code SLEEPERS. As a new customer, you can get up to 1,000 bonus credits plus a free pick. It's one of the most fun ways to play. It's a great way to support us. And on some actual like non-ad read stuff, talking genuinely here, really helps us because if Underdog loves us, if we get a lot of people to sign up, they're going to help us continue to bring you the content that you love. Show your support. Join Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code SLEEPERS. Get up to $1,000 in bonus credits and a free pick. You're going to lose those guys if you portal over them. That's just the reality of the sport. And as you mentioned in another video, there's some special circumstances with how Acaden is wired mentally that may have been violated here by the way Pope handled this.
I'm gonna be honest, and this isn't a shot at Mark Pope. Maybe for Kentucky, maybe he's getting the better player. Whoever gets Acaden Lewis is getting the better player though, because you just fired Acaden up. You were the one team that didn't doubt Acaden, and now you did. So like that's how he's wired. And now Acaden gets to go, "Oh, it's me against the world." I think whoever gets Acaden is getting an absolute dog that's going to give them 150% of everything he has. Um, can't ask for anything more than that. I think Jalon Lowe's a great player. He's probably the better fit for Kentucky. Um, but sometimes you do things to certain dudes and it just triggers something in them. And I always say this, don't poke the bear. And I think Kentucky just poked the bear a little bit.
Yeah, if you believe Acaden Lewis is special and you followed his story, this is just the perfect thing to make him be special wherever he goes. Because, I mean, the whole story of this entire kid's career is like being too under the radar, believing that he's better than anyone else believes, betting on himself. We talked about when he committed to Kentucky, like, his recruitment started very under wraps. It was like Michigan and a couple other schools were trying to sneak him before it got big. Then every blue blood on earth swooped in and said, "We want Acaden Lewis." Acaden Lewis, within days, trimmed his list to the 5 blue bloods. Like, of all kids, Acaden Lewis was like, "I'm going to one of the best programs in the country. I'm the best guard in the country. I'm going to be special. I'm betting on myself." And the amount of confidence it took to even put yourself in that spot in the first place was something I applaud for him. But that's the risk involved. When you are not AJ DeBanza, you're a Caden Lewis, and you bet on yourself proving out to Mark Pope that you're a star, you might not even get the chance to prove out that you're a star. And that's what happened here. And that frustrates me on behalf of Acaden, but it's just more fuel to the fire for everything that's made him great. Where do you think Acaden goes from here? Because I have a situational comp from this last season that I think makes a whole lot of sense for Acaden.
Okay. I was gonna say Duke or UNC. I think
Oh,
so I think Duke was one of the finalists for him. I believe he wasn't there like a surprise that Caden visits Duke weekend in the build up to him committing to Kentucky. And then UNC, I mean, the flirting with Caleb Wilson that he did. Um, I mean, now they have the opportunity to play together. UNC doesn't have anybody else on the roster, so they'll have the opportunity to play together. And it's kind of their team, their show, which is, I think, what they wanted at Kentucky, to be honest. So, um, yeah,
UNC is the one blue blood that I really like to fit at because, as you mentioned, I don't think North Carolina has a guard on the roster that's better than Acaden Lewis right now.
right.
So I think he would go there, prove out what he is, get the opportunity he wants, play with Caleb. That would feel like a homecoming of sorts. They always felt destined to be together, and it could work. It could save Hubert's job, quite frankly. Other than that, I hate the blue bloods. I don't want to see him at Duke, respectfully, because I think exactly what just happened at Kentucky would happen at Duke even if Duke is selling you something different, I'm not confident he would get the nod over the Boozer brother. I'm just not. So I know there was some smoke that 4 days ago, Acaden Lewis's dad was like all over Twitter liking a bunch of Duke posts. So there is some smoke that maybe that's been back channeled. Duke, for what it's worth, has been weird. They're like reporting that they're not after Xavier Lee, and maybe the timing of that conflicting reports could maybe mix with like, well, maybe they know they're getting a guard and maybe it's a Caden. But I would just, if I was an Acaden Lewis advisor, I'm always going to tell him to bet on himself. But I would tell him, hey, let's not go to a blue blood. Let's not put ourselves in the same situation that we just got in with Kentucky. Let's do what Jeremiah Fears did, Dion.
And go to Oklahoma.
It doesn't have to be Oklahoma, but let's just compare the situation. Jeremiah Fears committed way too early to a school in Illinois that sold him on being patient and being a big time culture guy and kind of slow playing him and then recruiting over him. They brought in Kasparis Yakashonis and said, we'd rather have 1 year of Kasparis than 1 year of you. And Jeremiah said, F that, I'm a star. And Jeremiah waited until very late in the cycle and then went to the best situation possible that he knew would put the ball in his hands for 35 minutes. To me, that's what a Acaden Lewis should do. If you really believe that you are that level player, you think you're a lottery pick, wait. Wait a couple months. Let's see what all these transfer rosters shake out as. And in June or July, even, figure out where you want to go that needs you. And then go there, play 35 minutes, do exactly what Jeremiah Fears did. A year from now, you might end up a lottery pick. That's what I think he should do.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I like the idea of him doing that. Maybe Florida.
Yeah, you would basically wait for the best team that misses on their targets.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, I like
just
that.
ensure that you can't get recruited over. That's what I would do.
I like that idea a lot, actually. I think anywhere Caden go, but he could do that. I will say the only thing is he could do that at UNC with his guy too.
Yeah, true. That is true. But all right, I guess we shall see what happens. In the end, are we calling this a mistake for Kentucky? Are they going to miss the fact, looking back on it, that they didn't have a Caden Lewis?
So yes and no. I think it's a tale of two answers. I don't think it's a mistake for Kentucky because I don't think they would get the version of a Caden the next team's going to get. But I think in hindsight, we're going to view it as a mistake because they just fired him up.
Okay. I'll just go there. I think whatever you would have gotten from the career of a Caden Lewis will exceed what you will get from Jelon Lowe. That's how I view it. So we'll see. But hey, it's a high stakes game, as Mark Pope is finding out. When you are the Kentucky head coach, you got to make tough choices. He made a tough choice. They got him a great player. Kentucky basketball is going to be fine. But welcome to the new era where you got to manage egos more than ever. And that's what happened here. We'll see. Kentucky fans, good luck. We'll see what happens.